Good morning, everyone. Microphone check, screen check. Looks like everything's working correctly here. Good, good. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone is able to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, all that fun stuff. As always, before we jump on the left side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trader Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that's inside there. The heck? Oh, there we go. There's a weird black box in the middle of the screen. I got it. Cool. Morning. Thanks for the heads up. Before we jump in, I don't know if I said it already, but on the left side of the screen, make sure to read through that. That way you're on the same page as everyone else. Just a quick note for you all before we jump in today on the YouTube side of things. Please keep in mind that the broadcast does have between a 5 and 30 second delay, depending on where you're logging in from, which can definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at the time. So just bear that in mind. YouTube does have a little bit of a delay from time to time. I just want to take a second to give a shout out to our latest members that joined overnight and last night and yesterday and this morning. Thank you so much for all of the support. I'm pumped to have you on the SSFTG fam. If you aren't a member yet, you have a few different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. Here on YouTube, you can check out the join button below the stream. The YouTube fam gain access to the extended hours trading room, which continues from the morning session from 10 to 10:30, 11 o'clock when things slow down. Every member gains permanent access to the Discord chat server, and of course, you get the awesome badge next to your name to show your support here on YouTube. Just looks cool too. To understand our trading approach and what I'm doing here every day in the room, look no further than the Day Trading Academy. And keep in mind, this isn't a lightweight PDF guide. This isn't something you're going to finish in an afternoon. This is 19 plus hours of course and study material, including homework and review and all of that fun stuff. So you better get ready and tuck in. And then finally, the big one, the VIP. VIPs have exclusive permanent access to our non-delayed stream, and that covers the entire morning session from 9 until we finish off the morning to ensure that you are connected not only to the fastest connection possible, but that you also don't miss any beats along the way, having to stream jump. Alongside that, VIPs also have access to our monthly VIP webinars. There's actually one coming up this weekend going over scalping. Really pumped about that one. Private VIP events, one-on-one scheduling access, all kinds of cool stuff. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're a seasoned VIP veteran over on the Zoom stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside with me today during these crazy markets. Well, at least crypto's moving around. We'll see what the U.S. session wants to do here. But let's take a look at some news, take a look at some charts, see what's going on for today so we can dive on in. Don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you this morning on the major 7 markets that we take a look at. That'll give us an idea of the zones of interest for us. Taking a look at the news calendar, super, super light. Not a whole lot going on, but earlier this morning at 8:30, we did have some big news. Building permits for April came out worse than expected. Not by much. 1.76 versus the forecasted 1.77. That's pretty close. The previous was revised from 759 down to 755. That's it, though. We do have FOMC member Bostic speaking at 12:30. API weekly numbers coming out later today because it's Tuesday at 16:30 this afternoon, but that's it. So, from the news calendar perspective, there's not really a whole lot that we have to worry about too much anymore. Take a look at the market starting off on the NASDAQ and working our way forward from there. So is the overall movement that we've got going on here, the thing that makes it a little bit awkward is that weekend gap kind of like kicked it higher and then fell lower, and now we're trying to reverse back up, but we still haven't broken above that high yet. Man, if they're going to go higher, they need to add just a bit more proof. We're missing it. Every single time it tries to go up there, it misses the ball. So really what needs to happen now is just a bit more continuation with some proof. Maybe we're just building a huge wedge. That could definitely be the case. But either way, if that is the case, we still haven't gone up to the highs yet. Maybe we're trying to get, that continuation push to finish the job. The one big thing that does aid the bulls is what we were talking about yesterday with that big break above that major swing. That's the proof. That's the higher high. Now we've got the higher low, maybe. It would be really nice to see it go above that high one more time, just to add a bit more context for those bull trend continuation traders. The overall movement that we've got going on so far was a deep L4. Broke higher, missed the L1. Finally pulled back, and you can see, man, the L1 buyers are buying it, buying it, buying it, buying it. Couldn't get it. They sold it. They tried buying the lows of it. Didn't work. They sold it. Tried buying the lows of the L2. That worked for an L1 bounce. Came down to the lows. Tried getting it going. Didn't work. Came down to L3. Bounced all the way back up, and they finally have the continuation there. So it's a bit messy on the way down. You can see there's a lot of play back and forth. The obvious concern is just simply that we haven't made a new high. That makes it so much harder. If we look at the pullback from the top to the bottom, that gives us an idea of nothing because my data's bugged. Cool. We'll take a look at that on the other one. Hopefully it works there. Over on the S&P, I mean, here again, you know, the big thing we were talking about yesterday is breaking above decisively all of these swings because we weren't really sure which one do they want to actually play, you know, with. Are they going to break above the highs, the mid-high, the little swing, the big swing? Which way are they going? They broke above all of them, so there's no guesswork. Now they've pulled back. That ended up being a flag. A little longer than I'd like it to be, but it did broke higher, that English, all the way back up to the highs, and that is the important part. It made it to the highs. If we're looking at this from the bulls' perspective, if the buyers are kind of concerned trying to buy a little bit too early because, you know, catching a falling knife or chainsaw, depending on which side you're on, it's tough. You get a higher low continuation, another high, they start picking away at it a little bit. We start seeing some buyers coming in, another dip, buyers coming in, even more proof breaking higher, and we go into a flag. Well, obviously, sellers aren't gaining any proof, so buyers are just waiting for a bit more here again, and they finally get it. And all of these buyers are targeting the same thing after this pullback happens. Target out at the highs. That's their profit. That's their objective. And that's what it hit, and that's what it rejected off of. So realistically, if the buyers did buy into this, and they were accumulating in, and they bought the dip, and they were accumulating the flag, and whatever else, a lot of them took profit at the highs, so much so that it's actually given back about half of the move already. That makes it a little bit challenging, but I guess at least it made a new high. If we're looking at the bottom move, I mean, that little itty bitty swing down there was an L3. I guess we'll go with that. Rolled all the way up into an L2, popped higher into an L1. They're climbing the ladder, L3, 2, 1. Breaking up, breaking up. We finally get a little bit of a reset pullback to an L1. And now we're seeing trouble on the highs again. And you can see there's an undertow across the top. There's divergence all the way. This is as big of an obvious of a pullback, at least a suggestion that a pullback is coming, that you could really ask for. This makes a lot more sense to see a deeper pullback to like an L2. They start sliding down the ladder. They climbed it up on a 3, 2, 1. Maybe now they fail off of the 1. Well, I guess technically it's not a failure. Go down to the 2. And then go down to the 3 and then start reversing or doing whatever they want from there. Either way, it's going to be really tough to want to be a buyer. At least up here, I've got to get deeper. Over on gold, really good continuation to the upside. The overall momentum that we've got going on is very nice from a channel perspective. They're trying to hold. The earlier channel would have been here. Got a little bit nasty above the highs. Kind of undershot and then overshot the highs. A little bit of a clue that something's going on here. Maybe they're just widening it out. And we've got a bit of a midline. Makes a bit more sense. Right around there. So nice little midline support, kind of serpentining back and forth through price here on gold. And at the moment, we're kind of bouncing off of that. Notably, it did just very heavily fail off the top. A little concerning to try to buy that midline. This would be a perfect excuse to miss the top and overshoot the lows. That would kind of reclaim some of that previous area in the 1855s. Doesn't mean it has to. The MACD hasn't even gone underneath 0. But, I mean, man, it's having a tough time either way. Speaking of tough time, crude oil pulling back a little bit further now, finally, with a what we could really consider more of a three-legged pullback, I suppose. Third one getting very extensive and starting to drive back. And realistically, the market's trying to pull back to a previous area of congestion in that previous zone. We don't even need the POC to see it. It's very likely going to be inside here, somewhere around the 65.40s. We'll double check just to see, but if we go all the way up to the highs, let's see where the POC lands. Okay, so they didn't quite shift the POC, but I am including quite a few candles before that. Let me just include the bottom candle. Okay, the POC is still down there. So technically speaking, 63.81 is there. But you can see them poking their head out there at just above 65. We'll say 65.10. That would also be a -1 DP. Very nice zone of interest. Very obvious accumulation into that point too. So a higher low area of support, although it doesn't necessarily have to hold, is going to be around those 65.10s. If it does flush, 63.81's next. And the euro still continuing up to the highs, breaking above the highs, not really being shy about this rally to the upside at all. Massive trap on the lows, and it just hasn't stopped going higher. Since that move has rotated off the base, we've got a very obvious trend going to the upside once again. And this trend is something that's been going on if you go out to a larger time frame for quite a while. But in the nearer term, it's just kind of kicked back up again. Let's see. I didn't quite hit that one, though. Might have to go in the slightly even nearer term. I didn't hit that either. So looks like we got a spike in channel. Spike in channel that's attempting to break above the highs. That's probably going to go great. Those work almost every time, right? I really wish the angle of this looked a little bit better. I'm not convinced that that's the one I want to watch. It makes more sense given that we've got more info. I know it's broken way above it, but trying to find a zone of support that actually kind of stuck the landing. And that one just seems to fit the best. So I think the spike in channel makes a bit more sense drawn off the highs and transposed to the lows. Might still mean that we have a move that was equidistant to the highs. But either way, it's still going higher. Bitcoin getting slapped a little bit off of the highs. Well, I think more so the lack of highs. They failed to break above the previous high. They failed to break above the next high, and then they failed to break above that one. After enough time and enough of those failures, buyers will start giving up. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. We're seeing this slide a little bit lower down. This is potentially the pullback for the MACWAC. Buyers are going to be just begging for an excuse to buy this pullback, with the understanding that this has been a diverging low for a very long period of time. Well, from the 15-minute chart perspective at least, that's been trying to reverse, and they've just recently tried reversing above the narrower. We really needed to get above that high. That was a huge factor, and they couldn't do it. That's going to shake the confidence a little bit. I'm going to have a hard time being a buyer above these lows. If anything, maybe down towards like the 42,750s. It's tough. We didn't break that high, and that's a huge problem. Ooh, lordy, what a flush on Ethereum, too. Oh, man. I think this... See, now this is a little bit more indicative of buyers missing the boat and then throwing their orders on at 3,300 and utilizing a flash crash to buy the dip. I don't know if it's going to go back down again, but it certainly seems like 3,300 was utilized as a catalyst to bounce off of. From that perspective, same thing. We've got a big old undertow that's telling us that the market should have a deeper pullback to the upside. Same problem. We did not break above those highs. It actually stopped the divergent double top. Really big problem. And now we're seeing a flush back down. Ethereum buyers are a bit more jumpy to jump on board with those quick little flushes for obvious reasons. But that said, this is still only that 25, 23% pullback area off the highs. Remember what Ethereum can do. 40, 42, 43, 48% pullbacks. We're only halfway there. This could get a lot uglier a lot faster. And this is the type of stuff that sparks those moves. So we need some more proof before I'm going to hit the long, other than BTFD, like DCA in mentality, and however many other acronyms you want to throw in there. Right now, the market's getting slapped, and I'm not going to step in front of that. Looking on the NASDAQ, from the perspective of the daily, we still have that major zone of interest, which still hasn't given us a pullback zone. If we anchor it off the top of that bear bar, because this is a pullback a little bit further underneath 12,792, which, noting that the zone is at 820 and this is a daily on the NASDAQ, I think that's fair. It's close enough. Might as well be to the tick as far as the NASDAQ's concerned. So with this overall movement that we've got here, we haven't seen the continuation to the downside as of yet. But what we do want to see is after that bear bar to the downside kind of finished off, what were they able to do? Were they able to kind of keep this move going? Did they finish from the bottom to top? Do they have a top-weighted POC? Was the POC at the bottom? What was the response? And the POC on this most recent correction is 13,250. Well, you can see yesterday did not close underneath that. That's going to cause some problems for continuation sellers to try to get this going. If sellers are going to get this back down through the lows, which they do have the bias, we are in a bear trend in the short term. The daily's still in a bull trend. But in the shorter term, it's in a bear trend. They got to get back underneath that 250. That's what it comes down to. Don't know if they're going to be able to do that or not. Looking at the hourly, yesterday on the hourly, aka the cliff, we had that big L2 from the top to the bottom, and that L2 rejection zone was kind of what the market was sort of fighting over yesterday, and it really looked like they got it back right on that inside high. But then it bounced off of the L1 pocket from the other side and reversed back up. That's a really big problem. Now, it's not a huge catastrophic problem yet for the sellers, but if they break above the highs, it's kind of game over. Like, sellers really needed that to go back through the L1. Those earlier L1 sellers, they were the ones that got potentially trapped. We don't know yet because this move is still progressing. But realistically, sellers will have likely tried to get continuation off the L1, and we have proof that they definitely sold off at least the top, but it couldn't make a new low. And the fact that it failed all the way back up and then just so happens to bounce right there, right? Remember, you know me, we talk about this a lot. I don't believe in coincidence. That seems like a lot of shorts were short and they're not short anymore. They probably took a lot of profit targets on the way down. Looks like they reversed a lot of them early on those break evens. You can see it juke through there. And now that it's come back, if they had any runners, maybe they were trying to get a little bit of extra spice. It didn't work. They had their chance to get out of break even again, and it looks like they took it. That's a really big problem for sellers. Now, like I said, it's not catastrophic until we break the highs, but I mean, man, how good of a start do you want? You know, that's a full sprint right to the end of the finish line. We'll see if they can finish it off though. On the 15-minute, we are pulling back a little bit aggressively, and if you look at yesterday's pullback from top to bottom at least, we've got the POC zone. Wow, they bottom weighted that POC zone down there in the 250s, even there. So that whole move was actually weighted on the move down. It wasn't on the bounce higher. It wasn't here. It was on the move lower. That's important to note because that demonstrates that buyers were accumulating in. We see increasing volume while the market is falling. That would suggest accumulation. Started deviating away a little bit under that zone, but as soon as it rallied back up, well, then we would likely see, at least initially, some profit taking. So the assumption, although we haven't looked, would be decreasing volume on the way up, which after this crazy POC here is exactly what we have. We've got profit taking on the way higher. The buyers are taking their profit and they're doing it ahead of the highs. We haven't necessarily seen a POC shift yet, and that's a heck of a one at 13,300. But if we increase this a little further forward, we do have it going on at 375. So, I mean, here again, if the buyers are going to take it higher, we're still in troubled water, even on the 15. I'm trying to zoom in as far as I can, but they're just not getting the job done. So, until they show up, I have to assume that the sellers are still trying. Yesterday did end up closing down with a staggered bear trend on the Asian and Euro session, although it did give back quite a bit into the end of the day. Asian session for today has the Euro session stacked above, but we are actually coming back. And this is creating a scenario that a lot of traders may utilize as an optimal buying point with minimal risk. Buying back on the Asian session highs with risk underneath the lows, but targets back up to the highs. That's a really nice reward versus risk to the upside. And generally speaking, when you have an Asian Euro session stacked like this, you usually have bullish continuation that's going to close somewhere up on the day. Up on the day doesn't mean that it can't go through the lows first. It doesn't mean that the trade can't fail first, but it's got a really good likelihood of at least trying to bounce. We just haven't seen any proof yet on the faster time frame. This thing's just screaming lower. From the narrower picture, from bottom to top, man, we've got the L2, which continued up. They didn't get an L1 on that pullback, and when they finally did get an L1, it was just Trap City. Couldn't get the job done. Got down to the L2, nobody showed up. L2's exit. Now we're down to the L3s. L3s, nobody's showing up. They keep running into problems. I'm curious here again, while the market's falling, 13,375 in accumulation volume going into that point. So if the buyers have any hope of taking this back, they have to get above 375 for now. Got about 8.5 minutes until the open, right around the corner. Got some time. See how these things want to respond today. And while things are getting slapped around on the crypto side of things, I also want to keep an eye on that. Where did my trading view go? There you are. Okay. From the crypto perspective, while we're waiting with the open right around the corner here, we can see what's going on. There's a fairly decisive pullback happening at the moment. Starting off with the big pop of Bitcoin. It hasn't broken down to a new low, but we are definitely seeing some heavy pullback, and we've got to go all the way out to a 4-hour chart just to see where the market may want to pull back to next, now that we're breaking underneath this. And this is kind of the concern, or this is the zone of concern. The last time we had a really aggressive pullback that was bottom weighted and very heavily defended, even heavily defended all the way to the end, but it's finally broken through. Now, we haven't seen any new lows underneath like 42,000 or anything like that. So if they do have stops underneath the base, buyers that is, they haven't been stopped out quite yet. But realistically, if it does start breaking through those, these buyers who've been trying to buy in this re-dip, looking for it to cycle back up, and they haven't been getting that cycle back up, a lot of them are going to start giving up. And typically the stops on these types of BTFD moves are either going to be just all the way down to zero, you dollar cost average in with small amounts at a time, or they're going to be very, very small stops because they're low probability. You're looking for huge reward. And, well, if it starts breaking through 40K, I just can't imagine seeing those buyers hanging around for too much longer if they're trying to hold it at 45. If it's going to go a little bit lower, the next major zone of interest is going to be down here at 35. And that would be the next point where buyers will begin starting to reaccumulate again. That would also be a very healthy pullback. Give me 1 second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. I mean, as far as Ethereum goes, a value pullback, I don't see a value pullback until like 48%. If you look at it from the value perspective, right, zooming back out on the 48 and put it on logarithmic so that you know you're looking at the right thing. As far as percentage pullbacks go, visually they can look very different. If we're measuring the last major pullback that happened, that was from the top to bottom there. That was about 36%. If we go the pullback before that, that was 32%. If we look at the pullback here, that was a little 27%, a little smaller inside there. Generally speaking, the average value pullback tends to be about, 30, we'll say low end 27, high end 36. So cut it in the middle like 32, 33. Well, if we look at the current pullback that's taken place off of the highs, this has only gone back that 28%. I mean, technically speaking, it's in that realm. It barely, but it's in that realm. It did value pullback. And man, what an aggressive bounce off of it. That's definitely something that we have to take note of. The other consideration is that if there is going to be a double value pullback, or one of the big ones, the ones where you get a lot of the money really slamming in, the last one was 37 before that, then you're usually going to double this value down in distance. So instead of 28, you would times that by 2. And, well, nobody really wants to see a 56% pullback in Ethereum, but that would be a double value pullback as a zone of interest. And that's something to definitively keep in mind, because it is possible. When you look back over on Ethereum here, we had that peak back at the 289s, 300s. It dove 70%. Okay? It's a possibility. It can happen. Don't discount it. But as far as value goes, from the near-term trend continuation, L1, L2, L1, L2 mentality, we have had a value pullback. Very barely, but we have had a value pullback on Ethereum. And anything underneath that zone is going to be just icing on the cake. The icing can be very deep. That's the point I'm trying to get at. This isn't the time to go throwing your entire life savings at Ethereum when we're not at like a double value pullback. You shouldn't do that anyway, but you know what I mean. 928 in about 30 seconds right around the corner here. Be careful. 928 is the last big moving time. POC is still way back at 375. The last time the market really pulled back was back here. As you can actually see, they're still fighting over that POC, as small as it is. $9.28 hits. Doesn't really do much, though. Well, I mean, it worked, so I gotta put it on there, even if it's awkward. From top to bottom, they also had another one there. Man, and look at the POCs on each of these swings. Don't these just blatantly paint a picture? Buyers buying the dip, POC on the lows, buying the dip into the open, rallies higher, they try selling into the top. Goes a little bit further, they sell a bit more aggressively, but it can't get it to roll back over. They start shifting back out and potentially even exit with a small loss. You can see the POC shift. Breaks up to another new high, potentially new shorts building in. Monster area of interest. Maybe they took their target there. And guess where we're back into? That zone of interest. It may not seem like a huge area, but that's a lot that happened here. Hey, how's it going? Let's see what the open wants to bring. At the moment, sellers are still technically in charge. That's a difficult pill to swallow, but from the swing perspective, to me, this is an area where buyers will be trying to buy and hold for a continuation of the upside because the risk is small. Remember that Asian session dip, right? Buying small risk, huge reward. Probability is probably really bad. That's the trade-off. Very nice support coming in. And just as fast as it showed up, it's gone. Jeez. Sellers just gave that a good old slap. Right down to the Asian session highs. Now notice how fast of a response there was on that low. They tapped the Asian high and just pop right off of it. And it might still go underneath it, but that initial response is pretty important. We know they're there. Kind of the proof in the pudding. Sellers are trying to get more pressure to the downside. That's the area that they're going to have to fight over. You can see very obvious demonstration of accumulation down to 13,375. After that, it dried up a little bit, but since then, it's been stepping back up again. So it seems like buyers are still accumulating this dip, and they haven't quite given up yet. Although the average, quite a bit further up. They're definitely underwater. If it can get back up to 375 and we find some responsive selling there, it's more likely that buyers were trying to buy the dip and they're jumping ship. I like that little rhyme. Piercing down through the Asian session. Gap closure's a little bit further down. Got a bit more to go. All right. Honestly, not really seeing a whole lot to really do anything with yet. Just a nice slide down. Zone of interest would be in the 13,300s, but it would be for a counter bounce back to the upside. It feels a little bit easier considering the massive rally that happened yesterday. Again, that lower high off the top is a concern. So 13,300 buyers will potentially still try to pick it up, but if they don't get that bounce, it's likely going to fail right through it. I don't want to be the first one to the party. It feels like I'm trying to juggle chainsaws here. Trends very obviously in the short term down. Incredibly shallow space that we've got going on here, but the previous POC, man, you'd have to go to like a 125 tick just to see these little micro pullbacks that they've got going on. Another really strong bear bar. Sellers on the scalp side will be looking for the downside move for gap closure. The problem is it's forcing people to sell really far down. Yeah, look at the response. Just nobody wants to sell that far down. Give me a pop-up above the 30s. Oh no. My shortcut command's not working again. Oh. Well, they are. That's not what I was looking for. Jeez, oh Pete, what in the heck is going on? Are things just, like, is this just lagging like crazy, or is my computer being stupid? I hit the button. It didn't work. I hit the button again. It didn't work. I hit the button again. It didn't work. So I thought, oh, man. You know, I hit the button a couple times, like, the button's broken. Then just, bam, 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 all the orders showed up. Like, oh, okay. I guess we're short full size. Cool. Give me a second here. Synapse? Is it Cortex? Which one of you is responsible for my shortcut commands because you're not doing something right? Synapse, maybe? Hang on a second. I just had a freaking heart attack for you. Yeah, jeez. I mean, it worked. It worked out in my favor. I was ready to jump ship pretty quick, but that would have been a pretty crap way to start the morning, huh? Jeez. All right, I gotta exit Synapse. You can go away. Exit everything. Just, you know what? Go away, Razer. I don't know what happened, but I don't want that to happen again. Synapse. All right, let me reload everything here. Are we good? Hang on now. Duplicate to a new window. Give me something totally different. Put it on Sim. What the heck? Huh. Okay. Well, I don't know what Razer's doing, but it's not doing something right. I suppose that means I should probably restart my computer or something, but not right now. Sellers attempting to get the move back to the downside here. All right. So far, thankfully, the market's remained a little bit slower while I'm trying to figure out what the heck's going on my keyboard. Well, I mean, I know what's wrong with it. It all started with the cat. And then the liquid. And then broken hotkeys and dreams is what happened after that. A little more rotation back to the upside. Honestly, not really interested in doing much until they get at least into the 60s, but preferably up towards those 75s. Yeah, Mr. Evils. Man, I don't know what has been going on with him the last couple days, but he has just been on tilt. Like, he's the definition. He just walks up and, like, what was it yesterday? We were sitting on the couch watching, I don't know, some TV show, and he just walks up to the dog and just slaps her in the face for no reason. Like, she's just doing nothing. Just pop. Like, what are you doing? He never used to do that. I don't know. He's feisty as hell right now. You know, cats. I mean, cats are always on the backside of evil anyway. So it's like, I love that they're low maintenance and all that, but man, some days. Short-term smaller balance going on here. kind of curious. I'm going to shift this back just to this low. POC is still back at 13,375. And if we drag this off of the bottom to the current... Ugh, man. POC's down at the 35s. What? Okay, definitely something going on with Synapse. It just popped up for no apparent reason. That's a good sign. Perfect. Anyway, let me get back on track here. First 5-minute volume on the S&P. Oi. 62 quarter right at the top. That's nasty. And then the first 5-minute vol on NASDAQ puts it very distinctively at the bottom, 2450. Still haven't gotten that rotation back up towards the 375s. Nice bounce off the Asian session highs. It seems like defensive buyers are coming back in on these bottom-weighted POCs that they just created. In the short term, it has made a new high, technically. Although not a very big one. POC still hanging out in the 35s. No change. If sellers are going to get through it, they've got to break through that first. And they couldn't do it so far. Ooh, man, that quick reversal back down, though, that's a good start. This move back up is quickly failing. That's potentially suggesting that buyers are a bit on the nervous side. I'm just not a huge fan of how it bounced off volume at the lows. That makes it a bit of a challenge. Right now it's looking like a twin reversal off of the volume node, unless this just fails right back down again. Nice pop higher here. So far, sellers will have potentially gotten triggered underneath that bear bar. And this bull bar has not been very kind to them. See if they can get this thing going or not. The S&P there. Oh man, what a mess. See if sellers can get this to go back down or not. That's the bear bar they want right there. Sellers looking for a continuation move back to the downside. Beautiful push. That's the pop right there. Gorgeous. Right down into 2450. I was only able to grab one. That happened so fast. That was the bear bar they needed. It finally got the job done. It snapped right back up again, though. Couldn't make a new low. Retesting a pretty important area here. Didn't quite really do a whole lot there. Quick little pop underneath. And then immediately popped right back up again. Alright, here it's not really doing much of anything. Quick little pop underneath that low. Seems like this 43, the 30s to 40s is kind of the hot spot for sellers to try to pressure back down off of. Back up towards those 343s would be the area that sellers would try again off of, but man, that twin reversal off the lows would scare the crap out of me. I don't want to sell into that kind of failure at the bottom. So remember where we are. We're in that deeper pullback bouncing off the Asian session highs, and it's not even come close to the lows where all of the stops are for them. So longs are still definitely in. And they've barely had any heat. Sellers trying to get things going back down again. 5-minute POC volume, the first 2450 is running into a lot of problems here for him. Ooh. Okay. Nice bull bar off that 2450. Terrible follow through. See if the buyers pick it up off of 2450, if they're going to hold it maybe. Otherwise, they'll try to break through. That would potentially be the breakthrough. $10 minutes until 10 o'clock, right around the corner. Market does end up continuing down to the lows. Man, what a herky-jerky way they did that. Very obvious 3-press low going on here. And somewhat even a bit of a... Man, what a crazy-looking wedge, too. They're just whipping both sides right now. S&P, if we can get a quick little pullback to 56. Don't break a new low. Okay, we still have 4 minutes left on the candle. See if they can back up a little bit. Plenty of time, but if they can't do it and it starts getting down to like 1 minute, I'm going to be a lot less interested. Ugh, and they broke a new low. All right. Well, a little bit of a bummer there. Just no pullback. Wedge attempting to break. We do have a new low. Here's another one of those instances that we just saw before. Remember those two weighted POCs when the market was congesting and before it broke out? We're seeing the exact same thing. This could be gearing up for a really strong breakdown. Still have 3 minutes left. I still like that 56 area. 56, 57, 58. Mainly because we still have so much time left. Come on, ES. Just a little higher up to those 56s, 56 quarters. All right, they've come close to the entry a couple times now. If this starts migrating back down below like 54, 53 half, likely I've just missed it. There's not much I can do about it. Came so close. Tested. I didn't get a fill. There we go. Tested the secondary area, but did not fill. $56 now is the scalp point. NASDAQ's trying to break higher outside of the wedge. And if they start filling in the 58s, then I'm going to lose a lot of interest. But we should be able to still get 56s. It tested it. I didn't get filled. I guess technically they got 56s, right? Not with me. The joys of trading the S&P. You got to wait for the fill. There we go. Very strong bull bar back up. NASDAQ continuing to try to break higher. They're challenging that 30 area. That 30 to 40 zone's a real tough spot. here it sits again, not really doing a whole lot of anything. Getting closer to that 10 o'clock. Sorry, top of the hour, right around the corner. Come on, sellers. Or buyers, or just somebody show up to the party. So far, the 330 sellers have pressured back off of it. Although we did test settlement. POCs are looking a bit awkward inside here. From the bottom to top, at the moment, 1550. Whew, man. They're trying. Big breakout move to the upside, snapping above a lot of those previous POCs. All of the shorts just realized, wait a minute, that might not have been good. We're going to see some potential stops, some potential aggression on the bull side to try to pick this back up. A little snap down here. They didn't get it, just barely. Technically speaking, it did go underneath the previous candle's low. That's kind of what I wanted to see, but it didn't do it in a way that I really wanted. Bull continuation to the upside. Although the S&P is still staying kind of bearish here. The NASDAQ is attempting to shift gears. Man, what a mess in here. Back up towards the 40s, rejecting back down again. Looks like kind of a twin reversal at the top. I've seen a lot of those today. The 15-minute looks like it's had a massive bounce off of the lows, and there's only a minute left on the candle. 10 o'clock right around the corner as well. So feel free to get those last questions in on this side of things. We'll get those answered for you, and then we will move over to the extended hours for members, and then rock and roll and see if we can get anything going on there. Give me 1 second, be right back. All right, we're back. The significance of 3 press wedges is that the sellers try 3 times-ish, but failed, correct? Generally speaking, yeah. The mentality is kind of 3 strikes, you're out. You know, I know it's kind of one of those, oh, haha, you can say that about everything, but it is true. A lot of times traders will try the first time with a lot of conviction, the second time with maybe even a bit more conviction, but the third time is going to be kind of the last one, and if it can't go from there, that's where they usually start diving. All right, well, that's going to do it for this side of things. For you VIPs, just hang put, stay put, whatever you want to say on the Zoom side of things. On the YouTube side, the link for the extended session should have been posted in the community area yesterday, so you can grab it from there. For the rest of you, I hope you had a great morning session. Hopefully you had some solid trade setups, and we will see you all back tomorrow morning, right? Have a good one. We'll talk to y'all later. Thanks.